Hi, this is Igor Smirnov from Remote Chess Academy. In this series of videos, we will observe the greatest chess moves played in 2014. Most importantly, we're going to find out how those top grandmasters find such brilliant moves and how you can do the same in your own games. Here's the position and it's white to move. At first it looks really complicated. Obviously white is trying to attack on the king side with his pawn assault. At the same time his own king is quite vulnerable in the center and lots of pieces are still undeveloped left on the first rank. With that said, it seems like black has very good chances for a counter-attack in the center and maybe on the queen side. How would you play in such a position? I'm pretty sure that most players would probably go for g5, attacking black's queen and continuing white's attack on the king side. The move like knight takes d5 also seems very logical, capturing the pawn and threatening knight to c7 fork. Maybe there are a few other logical moves that white can play, but most probably you have considered one of these two moves, and I'm pretty sure that 99% of players would play one of these two. Nevertheless, in a real game, white player Volkov Sergei played a very shocking and a very sudden move. Instead of attacking or capturing something, he played a calm move, bishop to g6. Well, if you're aware that there is a certain combination here, maybe you could find the move bishop g6. However, in a real game, it is really tough. We can only imagine the feelings of black player who first saw the move bishop g6 played on the board. Perhaps he was completely shocked. Bishop g6 is a blocking sacrifice. White is blockading the route for the black's queen. And right now white is ready to play g5, capturing black's queen. It's quite amusing that white have switched the target of his attack. Instead of attacking black's king, which seemed to be the main purpose of white's pawn assault on the king side, instead of the king, white is trying to capture black's queen. The white's idea will be very clear in case if black takes with the f-pawn, then after g5 black can resign straight away because the queen is captured. Of course, black can defend better, and that's why the move bishop g6 requires very accurate calculation from white. In the actual game, black played h takes g6, which is certainly better. The game continued with g5 and queen to h7. Now white should play h5. In general, the white's purpose is still the same. First of all, after h takes g6, white is still going to attack and to capture black's queen. In addition to that, white is opening the h-file, which can help him to reach black's monarch as well. The most obvious move for black, g takes h5, will be met by rook takes h5. Now the only escape square is f5. The black's queen was released and white should play very accurately. The best move is queen to h4, preparing the very simple mate, rook to h8. The best defense for black is to try to escape with king to f8. After that, white continues with g6, attacking the black's queen and most importantly taking control over the e7 square, which black intended to use to run away with his king. Now white is winning because after queen f6, white has the forcing variation rook h8 check, king to e7, and knight takes d5, forking the black's king and queen. It's pretty funny that ultimately, once again, black lost the game not because of the weakness of his king, but because he lost his queen. In the real game, instead of g takes h5, black played the move king to f8. Indeed, it saves black's queen. After h takes g6, black can hide the queen with queen to g8. Nevertheless, his position is so depressed, with all the pieces dozing on the last rank, that it's pretty easy for white to develop his attack. Perhaps there are different ways for white to do so. In the game he played queen g3, taking aim at the d6 square, which white can potentially jump in the future. In addition to that, white is still attacking black's pawn onto d5. Black tried to protect it with bishop b7, but it didn't help. White still can capture the pawn, which he did in the game. Knight takes d5. The point is, after bishop takes d5, white not only regains the piece after queen to d6 check, but after this move queen takes d5, there is no way for black to save his material. Therefore, white will end up with a huge material advantage and a totally winning position. In the actual game, black played another move instead of bishop d5, but anyway, he lost pretty soon without any counter chances. White is still threatening queen to d6 check, and also he's going to play knight c7, capturing one of black's rooks, which happened in the game. That's why we will not observe the game until the end. If you wish to see the whole game, you can find the link below the video. The move bishop g6 is very impressive indeed. Of course, it's fun to see the games like that, and it shows the truly high beauty of chess. At the same time, for practical purposes, it's important for us to understand the reasons of why this idea happened in this game, and how can you exploit such ideas in your own games. That's why let's take a few steps back and see how the game began. After the initial standard move, which both players played, black made a little bit sudden move knight to h5, and really the complication started at this point. With this move, black is preparing queen h4 check, which may lead to some troubles for white. White played knight to e2, and after rook e8, white made another little bit provoking move g4. It allows queen to h4 check, which black really played. Now let's have a closer look at this position and try to understand what's going on here. First of all, obviously the white's king will be situated in a center on a d2. At first glance it looks really bad for white. However, you need to know one very important rule. It states that if you have a strong position in the center, then usually you may advance your pawns on a flank. The strong central position secures you. It prevents your opponent from opening a position and starting an attack against you. That's why, even if your king is a little bit exposed, usually the strong position in the center secures you and you can be sure that everything should be fine. By saying a strong position, I mean that either you have a domination in the center, or your central position is rather closed and you can keep it closed. There is no easy way for your opponent to open up the position. This is true for the current situation. And that's why, even though the king on d2 seems to be very dangerously placed, in reality there is no easy way for black to exploit it. That's one thing. There is another factor that you should take into account in such positions. Black has a few of his pieces on a side of the board where white is developing his pawn attack against black's king. This is a very typical situation. It happens in many openings. For example, the similar type of situation happens in Sicilian defense very often. Here is a very common position of Sicilian defense. In the future, most likely black will castle kingside and there will be a position with opposite side castles. Again, it happens very often in various openings. Now, what if black plays b4? Where should the knight go? Should you move it to e2 or should you move forward to a4? Both ways has its pros and cons. If you go with the knight to e2, then in the future your opponent will be able to advance his pawns quickly and to start his attack there. In the particular position, it also gives black a chance to play knight to c4, attacking your bishop and your queenside position. Unlike that, if you put the knight onto a4, then you block the opponent's pawns, and even after the move a5, there is no easy way for black to get any progress on the queenside. This is a positive side for white. Of course, there is a negative side of this coin as well. The negative side is that your knight is on the edge of the board, and it has not so many prospects of where to go to in the future. In some variations, this knight can even be trapped. Let's say if black can attack this knight somehow, the only square available is the b6 square. But black can try to take control over the square, let's say with rook b8, and after that attack the white's knight with queen c6 or with bishop to d7 in the future, or with any other way to attack this knight. If this really happens, if black starts attacking white's knight onto a4, then first of all this knight can be trapped, because it's on the edge of the board. And secondly, even if the knight is not trapped, it will give a lot of extra tempos for black, because black will be expanding on the queen side while attacking the white's knight and while forcing white to waste time on making defensive moves backward. That's why before playing the move like knight a4, you need to think twice. You need to evaluate all advantages and disadvantages of the current move. There is no single rule that will help you to detect where the move like that is good or not. You need to evaluate the exact situation on the board. If you really can block the opponent's pawns, and if there is no easy way for your opponent to attack the knight and capture it, then move knight a4 is the best. At the same time, if you see a certain real danger for the knight there, then you have to be more careful and play the knight backward. In the particular situation we have on the board, the move knight a4 is good because white already secured this knight with his queen and bishop onto this diagonal, letting the knight play onto b6 anytime when there is a need for it. Well, currently the knight is preventing black from attacking on the queen side. This is a general idea that you can remember and use in such situations. Now let's come back to the main game we analyzed in this lesson. In this game, black didn't take into account that his seemingly active advanced pieces on the king side can become a problem for him. These pieces can either be captured or can give white some extra tempos for his attack. Both scenarios were realized in the current game. Currently we already can see that white gained some extra tempo because black has to waste time on moving his knight. After that white played queen e1, offering an exchange, but black was optimistic. He thought that he should continue an attack of white's king, so he played queen to h6. After knight f4, black played c5, bishop d3, b6. Now white played h4, and once again white got this extra tempo on attacking of black's pieces, and black had to make an awkward move, knight d7, shutting down his bishop and moving his knight back and leaving the d5 pawn unprotected. All in all, we can see that it has a lot of drawbacks. Ultimately, the h6 queen was in a big trouble after bishop g6 and was almost trapped and caused a lot of problems for black. Although the move bishop g6 seems to be fantastic and shocking at first sight, if you understand the ideas of positions with opposite side castles, then it will not be so surprising for you. I hope this lesson helped you to realize a few important ideas about such positions. how to play with opposite side castles and how you can block opponents' pawns and when you should not do that. Also, I hope that you had fun from seeing this fantastic game, and I will be talking to you in the next series of this lesson. Once again, if you want to see the whole game used for this video, you can download it using the link below the video. If you have any questions or comments, you're welcome to write them in the comments area below. I will appreciate it a lot. Thanks for watching and talk to you soon.